Hello, thank you guys for coming back today. We have a green screen up. I'm not really sure how this would work, but I've also got two cameras, so two different angles. Hello. I will most likely be looking at this angle, and this angle will be to kind of use the green screen area. But hopefully this goes well. And once again, we are reading Call Me By Your Name by Andre Atchman. Beautiful book. Oh, I love that noise. And I think the last time we ended at page 18, but I guess we can start from the last paragraph in page 17. And why wouldn't I show him how like butter I was? Because I was afraid of what might happen then? Or was I afraid he would have laughed at me, told everyone, or ignored the whole thing on the pretext that I was too young to know what I was doing? Or was it because if he so much as suspected, and anyone who suspected would of necessity be on the same wavelength, and anyone who suspected would of necessity be on the same wavelength, he might be tempted to act on it? Did I want him to act? Or would I prefer a lifetime of longing, provided we both kept this little ping-pong game going? Not knowing. Just be quiet. Say nothing. And you think if you can't say yes, don't say no. Say later. Is this why people say maybe when they mean yes, but hope you'll think it's no when all they really mean is, please, just ask me once more, and once more after that? When your auntie asks if you want more bread, and you're like, oh no, it's okay, I'm like so full. You just hope they ask for more so you can get more without looking greedy. Anyways, I look back to that summer and can't believe that despite every one of my efforts to live with the fire and the swoon, life still granted wonderful moments. Italy, summer, the noise of cicadas in the early afternoon, my room, his room, our balcony that shut the whole world out, the soft wind trailing exhalations from our garden up the stairs to my bedroom. The summer I learned to love fishing because he did, to love jogging because he did, to love octopus, Heraclitus, Tristan. The summer I'd hear a bird sing, smell a plant, or feel the mist rise from under my feet on warm sunny days, and because my senses were always on alert, would automatically find them rushing to him. Ooh, you're in love. I could have denied so many things that I longed to touch his knees and wrists when they glisten in the sun with that vicious sheen I've seen in so very few. That I loved how his white tennis shorts seemed perpetually stained by the color of clay, which as the weeks wore on became the color of his skin. That his hair, turning blonde every day, caught the sun before the sun was completely out in the morning. That his billowy blue shirt, becoming ever more billowy when he wore it on a gusty days on the patio by the pool, promised to harbor a scent of his skin and sweat that made me hard just thinking of it. Damn. Teenage boys be like. All this I could have denied and believed my denials. But But it was the golden necklace and the Star of David with a golden mezuzah on his neck that told me here was something more compelling than anything I wanted from him. For it bound us and reminded me that while everything else conspired to make us the two most dissimilar beings, this at least transcended all differences. I saw his star almost immediately during his first day with us. And from that moment on, I knew that what mystified me and made me want to seek out his friendship, without ever hoping to find ways to dislike him, was larger than anything either of us could ever want from the other. Larger, and therefore better than his soul, my body, or earth itself. Staring at his neck with its star and telltale amulet was like staring at something timeless, ancestral, immortal, and me, and him, and both of us, begging to be rekindled and brought back from its millenary sleep. What baffled me was that he didn't seem to care or notice that I wore one too, just as he probably didn't care or notice each time my eyes wandered along his bathing suit and tried to make out the contour of what made us brothers in the desert. With the exception of my family, he was probably the only other Jew who had ever set foot in B. But unlike us, he let you see it from the very start. We were not conspicuous Jews. We wore our Judaism as people do almost everywhere in the world, under the shirt, not hidden, but tucked away. Jews of discretion, to use my mother's words. To see someone proclaim his Judaism on his neck, as Oliver did, when he grabbed one of our bikes and headed into town with his shirt wide open, shocked us as much as it taught us we could do the same and get away with it. I tried imitating him a few times. I tried imitating him a few times, but I was too self-conscious, like someone trying to feel natural while walking about naked in a locker room, only to end up aroused by his own nakedness. I don't think that's a common occurrence, but okay. In town, I tried flaunting my Judaism with the silent bluster that comes less from arrogance than from repressed shame. Not him. It's not that he never thought about being Jewish or about the life of Jews in a Catholic country. Sometime we spoke about just this topic during those long afternoons, when both of us would put aside work and enjoy chatting, while the entire household and guests had all drifted into every available bedroom to rest for a few hours. He had lived long enough in small towns in New England to know what it felt like to be the odd Jew out. But Judaism never troubled him the way it troubled me. Nor was it the subject of an abiding, metaphysical discomfort with himself and the world. It did not even harbor the mystical, unspoken promise of redemptive brotherhood. And perhaps this was why he wasn't ill at ease with being Jewish, and didn't constantly have to pick at it the way children pick at scabs they wish would go away. He was okay with being Jewish. He was okay with himself, the way he was okay with his body, with his look, with his antic backhand, with his choice of books, music, films, friends. He was okay with losing his prized Mont Blanc pen. I can buy another one just like it. He was okay with criticism too. He showed my father a few pages he was proud of having written. My father told him his insights into Heraclitus were brilliant but needed firming up. that he needed to accept the paradoxical nature of the philosopher's thinking, not simply explain it away. He was okay with firming things up. He was okay with paradox. Back to the drawing board. He was okay with the drawing board as well. He invited my young aunt for a tete-a-tete, midnight Gita, I don't know what that means, spin in our motorboat. She declined. That was okay. He tried again a few days later, was turned down again, and made light of it. She too was okay with it, and had she spent another week with us, would probably have been okay with going out to sea for a midnight Gita that could easily have lasted till sunrise. You know, confident men who are just, not even men, but just confident person who is so self-assured, that is very attractive, and I can relate to that. But only once, during his very first few days, did I get a sense that this willful but accommodating, laid-back, water over my back, unflappable, unfazed 24-year-old, that was a hell lot of an adjective, who was so heedlessly okay with so many things in life was, in fact, a thoroughly alert, cold, sagacious judge of character and situation. Nothing he did or said was unpremeditated. He saw through everybody, but he saw through them precisely because the first thing he looked for in people was the very thing he had seen in himself, and maybe not have wished others to see. He was, as my mother was scandalized to learn one day, a supreme poker player who'd escape into town at night twice a week or so to play a few hands. This was why, to our complete surprise, he had insisted on opening a bank account on the very day of his arrival. None of our residents had ever had a local bank account. Most didn't even have a penny. It had happened during a lunch when my father had invited a journalist who had dabbled in philosophy in his youth and wanted to show that, though he had never written about Heraclitus, he could still spar on any matter under the sun. He and Oliver didn't hit it off. Afterward, my father had said, "A very witty man, damn clever too." "Do you really think so, Pro?" Oliver interrupted, unaware that my father, while very easygoing himself, did not like being contradicted, much less being called pro, though he went along with both. "Yes, I do," insisted my father. "Well, I'm not sure I agree at all. I found him arrogant, dull, flat-footed, and coarse. He uses humor and a lot of voice." Oliver mimicked the man's gravitar and broad gesture to nudge his audience because he is totally incapable of arguing a case. I don't know why I'm using that voice. He sounds like some old-timey cop / detective. But I don't know what other voice would suit him. "The voice thing is so over the top." Okay, let me just do it like American. The voice thing is so over the... Oh, I can't do it. I'll just do what I've been doing. "The voice thing is so over the top, bro. People laugh at his humor not because he is funny, but because he telegraphed his desire to be funny. His humor is nothing more than a way of winning over people he can't persuade. If you look at him when you're not speaking, if you look at him when you're speaking, he's always looking away. He's not listening. He's just itching to say the things he rehearsed while you were speaking and wants to say before he forgets them. How could anyone intuit the manner of someone's thinking unless he himself was already familiar with the same mode of thinking?" That's true. How could he perceive so many devious turns in others unless he had practiced them himself? Dun, dun, dun. What struck me was not just his amazing gift for reading people, for rummaging inside them and digging out the precise configuration of their personality, but his ability to intuit things in exactly the way I myself might have intuit them. This, in the end, was what drew me to him, with a compulsion that overrode desire of friendship or the allurements of a common religion. "How about catching a movie?" he blurted out one evening when we were all sitting together, as if he'd suddenly hit on a solution to what promised to be a dull night indoors. We had just left the dinner table where my father, as was his habit these days, had been urging me to try to go out with friends more often, especially in the evening. It bordered on a lecture. Oliver was still new with us and knew no one in town, so I must have seemed as good a movie partner as any. But he had asked his question in far too breezy and spontaneous manner, as though he wanted me and everyone else in the room to know that he was hardly invested in going to the movies, and could just as readily stay home and go over his manuscript. The carefree inflection of his offer, however, was also a wink aimed at my father. He was only pretending to have come up with the idea. In fact, without letting me suspect it, he was picking up on my father's advice at the dinner table and was offering to go for my benefit alone. I smiled, not at the offer, but at the double-edged maneuver. He immediately caught my smile, and having caught it, smiled back, almost in self-mockery, sensing that if he gave any signs of guessing I'd seen through his ruse, he'd be confirming his guilt, but that refusing to own up to it after I made clear I'd intercepted would indict him even more. So he smiled to confess he'd been caught, but also to show he was a good enough sport to own up to it and still enjoy going to the movies together. The whole thing thrilled me. Or perhaps his smile was his... Sorry, let me do that again. Or perhaps his smile was his way... Okay. So, the whole thing thrilled me. Or perhaps his smile was his way of countering my reading tit for tat, with the unstated suggestion that maybe, that much as he'd been caught trying to affect total casualness on the face of his offer, he too had found something to smile about in me. Namely, the shrewd, devious, guilty pleasures I derived in finding so many imperceptible affinities between us. There may have been nothing there, and I might have invented the whole thing, but both of us knew what the other had seen. That evening, as we biked to the movie theater, I was, and I didn't care to hide it, riding on air. Bruh, just imagine you're in like Italy, and you can speak French, Italian, English, and then you have some like cute older guy from uni who's smart and like is like self-assured, comes over and like invites you to a movie, and it's like they're like flirting, but like in secrecy, and oh my god, and it's like in the summer and you're young as well, you know. Getting hot. Okay, to continue. So with so much insight, would he not have noticed the meaning behind my abrupt shrinking away from his hand? Not notice that I'd lean into his grip? Not know that I didn't want him to let go of me? Not sense that when he started massaging me, my inability to relax was my last refuge, my last defense, my last pretense that I had by no means resisted, that mine was fake, resistance that I was incapable of resisting and would never want to resist, no matter what he did or asked me to do. Not know, as I sat on my bed that Sunday afternoon when no one was home except for the two of us, and watched him enter my room and ask me why I wasn't with the others at the beach, that if I refused to answer and simply shrugged my shoulders under his gaze, it was simply so as not to show that I couldn't gather sufficient breath to speak, that if I so much as let out a sound, it might be to utter a desperate confession or a sob. One or the other? Never, since childhood, had anyone brought me to such a pass. Bad allergy, I said. Me too, he replied. We probably have the same one. Again, I shrugged my shoulders. He picked up my old teddy bear in one hand, turned its face toward him, and whispered something into its ear, then turning to the teddy's face to face me, and then turning the teddy's face to me, and altering his voice, asked, "What's wrong? You're upset." By then, he must have noticed the bathing suit I was wearing. Was I wearing it lower than was decent? "Want to go for a swim?" he asked. "Later, maybe," I said, echoing his words, but also trying to say as little as possible before he'd spot I was out of breath. "Let's go now." He extended his hand to help me get up. I grabbed it and, turning on my side, facing the wall away from him, to prevent him from seeing me, I asked, "Must we?" This was the closest I would ever to saying, "Stay, just stay with me. Let your hand travel wherever it wishes. Take my suit off, take me. I won't make a noise, I won't tell a soul. I'm hard, and you know it. And if you want, I'll take that hand of yours and slip it into my suit now, and let you put as many fingers as you want inside me." Oh my god, this shit is graphic. This is not safe for work. Ah, my god. He wouldn't have picked up on any of this. He said he was going to change and walked out of my room. "I'll meet you downstairs." When I looked at my crotch, to my complete dismay, I saw it was damp. Had he seen it? Surely he must have. That's why he wanted us to go to the beach. That's why he walked out of my room. I hit my head with a fist. How could I have been so careless, so thoughtless, so totally stupid? Of course he'd seen. So that's the end for today's session. So we read until page 24. That was intense. Things are getting really steamy and sexual. Let me just quickly read the next paragraph and see what we're doing about. Okay, interesting. So I guess the parts that we read, if you watch the movie, is the part that he was trying to masturbate but got caught. Anyways, that was very steamy. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I hope you guys enjoyed the green screen. I'm not really sure if it works